Hello, ladies and gentlemen. This is Jim Nowakowski from Interline Creative Group. Glad to have you here. We're here to talk today about staying in front of your customers using the phone. How ironic. Hold on one second. Let me get this. Holy mackerel. Hello? No. I can't talk now. I'm in the middle of a presentation. No, really. It's about can I call you back, please? Seriously. I know you're a client. No, I'm kidding, ladies and gentlemen. That was all a setup. I want to talk today about this. This is very important. You think it's a computer? It's really a phone. And today we're going to talk about how important it is to use the phone as a phone. Because this is very important to all of you. Not just some of you, but all of you. This course is AIA approved by the AIA NKBA. It's also copyright, but if you're interested at the end of the presentation, there's an email address and a phone number. I'll PDF the slides to you for your personal view and pleasure, so that you, in case you don't want to take copious notes now, you can do it with the PDF file in front of you. This program is going to discuss how architects, engineers, designers, showroom people, consultants, business executives can enhance their business using the phone. The phone is really an overlooked tool these days. More and more you're seeing it come back, but when they try to automate everything, you hear people calling up and, I'm sorry, we're at lunch. That's not going to work anymore because more and more people are demanding personal service. So you're going to gain a better understanding of how to use the phone. What we're going to do is we're going to review business basics and how important the phone is in your strategy. Most people don't consider the phone, when they're thinking strategically, they don't consider the phone as a tactical weapon, but it is. It's probably one of your most effective tactical weapons, both inbound and outbound calling. We're going to discover the power of personal relationships through the phone. And ladies and gentlemen, the phone is really one of the great psychological tools left to us, much better than email. We're not saying email isn't important. But we are saying that the phone is a strategic weapon capable of personalizing the message. How do you tell a person has a cold in an email unless he says, I have a cold? And who would put that in an email, that I have a cold? We're going to review helpful techniques on listening to your customers using the phone and how to respond to the needs of people on the phone. So let me do this. Let me review a few statistics with you. I want you to think about these things as we go through the rest of the course. 92% of Americans have cell phones. We have almost 100% coverage. I know people, as I'm sure you do, ladies and gentlemen, who are actually pulling out from their landlines and just going to their cell phones. They just don't want the landlines anymore. I don't know why you would do that, but there are people doing that. This is Pew Research. Pew is a very established research organization. 68% of the 92 have smartphones. There is a difference between a cell phone and a smartphone. If you watch NCIS, Gibbs still uses a flip phone, which is a regular cell phone. 63% of mobile traffic is sent from a mobile video. That's 7.2 exabytes. I want to repeat that, and this isn't Jim Nowakowski saying this. This is actually Cisco Systems saying this, and they monitor all this stuff. So 7.2 exabytes, I know you're going to ask me an exabyte, and there it is, ladies and gentlemen. It's 1 billion gigabytes. 1 billion gigabytes, which means 7.2 gigabytes per month are used in this channel of the phone with mobile video or video. That's a lot. I didn't know people talk so much, did you? I'm kidding. On average, people in the United States of all age groups check their phones 46 times a day. So everybody's checking their phones constantly, and you see it in restaurants, don't you? You see it wherever you go. You see it at stadiums. People go to stadiums and they're using their phone. They're checking their phone instead of watching the professional game that they went to see. Phones are everywhere. I want to use the term ubiquitous, but that's not true because we're still missing a few percentage people who don't have phones. Listen to this statistic. Ready? All right. 44% of cell phone users have slept with this is Deloitte Touche, a very established research company, have slept with their phones by their side. I don't do that, ladies and gentlemen, and there's something strange about sleeping with your cell phone by your side. I would not recommend it, but if 44% of the people are doing it, why? They just can't get away. We had an intern last Christmas with us, just an excellent young millennial lady, junior in college, and she carried her cell phone everywhere. I had her keep a diary of her time with us. Tiffany, her name was Tiffany, just an excellent person, but she would bring the cell phone everywhere, to meetings, to conference calls, and I thought, this is really interesting. And in her diary I read, I can't live without my phone. Think about that. This is a young lady in college. I can't live without my phone. Can you? Can you? And if you can't live without your phone, ladies and gentlemen, and business is being conducted over the phone, you better learn to live with your phone. That's what I'm suggesting to you. Now, when we were in conference calls, she'd be on her phone, and I think she'd be texting her friend, what she was really doing is researching the company that we were talking to, our particular client. That was an amazing discovery for me, because sometimes we conclude that we see people on phones in restaurants and they're texting each other, and perhaps they are. But the phone is so powerful. It's being used in many, many different ways. We're going to talk about some of that, but we're really going to talk about how people interact on the phone. The average age for a person's first cell phone, when they get their first cell phone in the United States, according to Qualcomm and a couple of other people, is 10 years old. By 10 years old, they have a cell phone. Before we continue with the phone and talking about how we use it in business today, I want to remind you of a few things. Staying in front of your customers, don't forget service. Always be closing. Cross-selling, listen for opportunities. These are the basics of business, and they're very important to what we do. So a few basic business questions that I'd like to ask people in the audience. You don't have to shout out your answers, please, but what you should do is write them down or think about the answers. And I already know the answer to the first question I'm going to ask you, because like a good lawyer, I've done this before, right? How many customers do you have? I heard you, not enough. I heard you say that. I heard that, and I heard it from more than one of you. That's the usual answer, but you got to be careful of that answer, because when you answer not enough, that means if you get too many, you're going to lose some. How many do you want? How many can you handle realistically? Some people say I can handle everything that comes through my door. These are basic questions you have to answer, but the one thing I want to remind you of is basically that the phone can help you answer these questions. The phone can help you answer these questions. Ladies and gentlemen, you will lose customers unless you answer the phone properly, timely, and courteously. You will lose customers. I guarantee you that. There's more business lost because of the way people answer phone. TD, I shouldn't even mention this company. It's a major company, right? I called them last night because I was returning their call. I was on hold for 10 minutes. 10 minutes. Not good. And I'm a preferred client of this company. So the dreaded cold call, I want to start my phone discussion with the dreaded cold call. How many people like cold calls? Now, come on, be honest with me. I know some of you, really. All right, there's only a few hands in this audience, right? By the time we're done with this session, we're going to have all the hands up, because the cold call is your friend. There is nothing more exciting or better than a cold call, and I'm here to prove it. When you make a cold call, you're actually calling someone and interrupting them, and you have a chance to form a relationship. You have a chance to end the relationship. You have a chance to get hung up on or talk to somebody and gain business. Cold calls are very exciting, very difficult to do, but very, very exciting. And why? Because there's no visual clues. Like now I'm giving you visual clues, right? I'm running around having a good time on stage. But in a phone call, there are no visual clues. You only have the voice to go through. The voice is your clue. So you have to be attuned to the voice, the human voice. And ladies and gentlemen, there's nothing more provocative or exposing than the human voice. You can tell when a person's happy, sad, occupied. It comes through. And it's so expressive. I have a saying, curiosity may kill the cat, but it opens the door to relationships. Curiosity opens the door to relationships. When you're on the phone, and if you know the person you're calling, hello, Jennifer, how are you? There's nothing better than the human voice hearing their name. They love that, right? If you're doing a cold call, you should at least be calling off a list, let's hope. And you start out the conversation with their name. It's very difficult to say that's the person we have. Of course, when I answer the phone in my office and they ask for Jim Nowakowski, sometimes I can tell it's a telemarketer. Okay, shh. You can tell. You can tell because you can hear the background noise, right? You don't know what I'm talking about. And so when they ask for Jim Nowakowski, I say, I'm sorry, he's not in. May I take a message? I lie. And they say, no, that's all right, I'll call back. Or they'll say, can you put me into his voicemail? And then I put them into my voicemail and I go there and they don't not leave a message. So I guessed right that they are a telemarketer. Or I try to engage them. What's this call about? But these are the cold calls. It's not just outbound, remember, ladies and gentlemen, it's also inbound. So you should always have a script for your calls. A script is great. Script out your calls, write it out. Hello, write the word hello out. I'm not kidding. But there's nothing more important when you're on the phone than going off the script. You should have the script. Let me repeat that. This is very important. There's nothing more important than having a script and then going off the script. Why? Because going off the script creates a natural spontaneity in your response. Hi, this is Jim Nowakowski. I'm calling you on behalf of Interlink. You see that? If you're reading a script, people know you're reading a script. And they can tell you're reading a script. And ladies and gentlemen, unless you're 7 years old, you don't want to be read to, do you? So you have to overcome your fear. We're going to talk about fear today. And most people are afraid of making that call or of picking up the phone. You know, I have people in my office that have yet to answer the phone. I know. I tell them we have to answer the phone in 2 rings. There's an unwritten rule at Interline. And yet, as much as I say they won't answer, they wait for that. They come close. They reach, I see them, I watch them secretly. They reach for the phone, but they don't pick it up because someone else saves them. And then they go, whew. And they don't know what they're missing because I answered the phone. I answered the phone the other day. And the guy goes, Jim? I go, Don. It was the client. He goes, what are you doing answering the phone? I said, well, I'm here to answer the phone. We're a service company. We had a great conversation. You never know who's on the other end. That's the excitement of the cold call, isn't it? Isn't it? So, you remember Lily Tomlin? Is this the person to whom I'm speaking? Remember that great show she used to have with the telephone company? And she would dress up? Think of Lily Tomlin when you're answering the phone and have fun with it, ladies and gentlemen. Very important. So what does it take? Be yourself. You can't be anybody else. No one's asking you to be anyone else. You have to be yourself. Yourself, what you project through your human voice, is what people want to hear. If you're bored, they will detect it. I used to be an English teacher, right? And when you're a teacher, you cannot fool sophomores in high schools. Why? Because they know everything. So I would have teachers who were just horrendous teachers. They would stand with their back to the blackboard and go like this and just talk in a monotone. And the kids, like Pac-Man, would just eat them up. Just eat them up, right? That you cannot hide your boredom from people. You cannot hide your joy from people. If you're happy, it comes through. I was talking to a lady the other day who's going to book us for some engagements and speaking engagements. She was so excited when, and it was a cold call. She had called me. She got our press release. It was a great conversation. By the end of the conversation, she's going, I'm so excited. And it was genuine. It was genuine. So I got excited. And when I followed up the next day, I said, I'm pumped. Good communications. You want to know one of the secrets of really good communications? For example, can you hear my nasality? as I keep talking. That's part of my Chicago, and I have a Chicago accent. Did you know that? I didn't know that. That somebody says, "Are you from Chicago?" I said, "How do you know?" He says, "Your accent." And as much as I try to hide my accent, which I can, and I can certainly pronounce perfectly, I don't like to because I want to come across as a genuine Chicago guy, right? Record yourself. Take a recording and record yourself and listen to yourself. And you'll pick up clues. People will tell you when you're not pronouncing things right. And is mispronunciation the kiss of death? No, we do it all the time. How many people have heard of the win-loss ratio in telemarketing? And you know what I'm talking about, the kind of phone calls you get in the evening, right? They come in, and nowadays if you have Comcast, it tells you who's calling, or if you have caller ID. Those are the telemarketers, the dreaded telemarketing calls. And we hate those, don't we? And sometimes I actually pick them up because I enjoy them. And I try to get the person off the script as fast as possible. And you can always tell a person who is not experienced, they cannot leave the script. They can't leave the script. And this is how, and I would encourage you to answer those calls and engage. That's how you build up your confidence on the phone. It's very important. The win-loss ratio, ladies and gentlemen, is how many calls it takes, how many hang-ups it takes to get somebody on the phone that will give you a yes. Every telemarketer has a win-loss ratio in his head. Salespeople have a win-loss ratio in their head. How many sales calls do I have to make before I get the order? It could be 10, I got to make 10. It could be I got to make 25. In a considered purchase, it may be 2 years and I got to call them twice a year. Who knows what they are, but you should have these because they exist. And here's the good news. You need a few no's to get the yes. And once you realize that, every no you get it's a step towards the yes. And I relish those no's. For example, sometimes when I'm making cold calls on behalf of a client, and we do a lot of this, which is why I got a lot of practice, I'm pursuing the conversation, and then I actually, yes, ladies and gentlemen, I get hung up on. I'm not the perfect telemarketer. And when I get hung up on, I always call the person back and I say this. I say, "I'm sorry, I think we were disconnected." Then I get hung up again, or the person starts laughing and we engage in a great conversation. These are some of the tools you'll need. If people hang up on you, it's a good thing. How many people know who Mark Levine is? I see several hands going up. Yes, he's the conservative radio talk show guy. Wrote many books, right? And I'm not trying to tell you I'm a conservative. I'm just saying I listen to a lot of radio and I use the phone a lot. The phone is very important. So one day I'm driving home and I hear him talking about something that's really, okay, whatever. And I decide to call his station. And usually when you call these people, you can't get through. You just can't get through. I got through. And he answers the phone. The screener puts me on hold. I tell him what I want to talk about, Illinois, and Republicans in Illinois. Because if you live in Illinois, it's a Democratic stronghold, right? I'm not getting political. So I get him on the phone and we start talking. And I say, "I really like what you're saying, but I live in Illinois. I can't do anything." "What do you mean you can't do anything?" he says in his very Levine voice. You can go out there and, I said, "I got a business to run. I don't have time." No. And we started engaging in an argument. And he hung up on me. He said, "I don't have time for this." Click. I called him back, but I got the busy signal. I use that as a badge of honor now, that I got Mark Levine to hang up on me. I'm not saying you should do that, but I'm just saying the phone is there. If you're a designer and you hear these talk show people talking about handyman specials and you hear something wrong, get on the phone and call the radio station. The phone is a tool, ladies and gentlemen. To script or not to script is not the question. You should script it, but get off the script. Pretend you're on stage, just like I am now, and talk to people with enthusiasm in your voice. I'm going to ask this question from this slide here, but everybody knows who Michael Jordan is, right? Do you know that how many free throws Michael Jordan did every day? I saw a movie recently with The Rock, and it was, I think it was called Central Intelligence. It's a recent movie, and it started out when he was in high school, and so they overimposed his face on a big, on an obese guy, right? And then later on, 15 years later, he meets his school chum, and it's The Rock. You know who Dwayne Johnson is, right? He's The Rock. He's huge. And the guy asked him, "How did you get so huge?" He goes, "I worked out 6 hours a day for 20 years, every day." And guess what Michael Jordan did? He shot hundreds upon hundreds of free throws every day. Practice, you know the old saying, practice makes perfect? It's not going to happen overnight. You're not going to pick up the phone, unless you're Mozart, and be a natural. You have to practice. One of the things you'll learn very quickly is hesitation kills the deal. He who hesitates is lost. You got to go for it. You can't hesitate. There's times not to talk. For example, when you're doing a deal over the phone and you're making a presentation, either in person or on the phone, there are times when silence is great, where you should be quiet. For example, if you're talking, say, "Well, what do you think?" Most inexperienced people will say, "Don't you like what I just told you?" Or something to that effect. Instead, let the silence lie. Because on the phone, remember, you can't see anything. It's all in your voice. And guess what? No voice is a voice. Listen to this. Isn't that wonderful? Did you hear the silence? You can use silence to your effect. Dale Carnegie wrote a book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. He knew engagement is important. Learn people's names. Don't criticize people. Don't condemn. Be a provider. You know, you're always looking for solutions, and give an honest and sincere appreciation. Use words like, "I understand what you're saying. I see. Are you still there?" Sometimes you hear, right? Here, tell me you haven't experienced this. You're on the phone with somebody and you're talking away and you're explaining something and you're not getting any response whatsoever, except you hear something in the background, like clicking of a keyboard or something. And you know instinctively that person is not listening to you. You know, I see heads going up and down. You know this, don't you? It's intuitive. You can hear people when they're not paying attention. So what's your strategy when you hear that? Are you still there? I used to use that. Are you still there? "Oh, yeah, I'm here." And then you hear them, they refocus. I don't do that anymore. I basically say, "Listen, I can tell you're busy. Can I call you back at another time when you're not busy?" Why do I say that? That immediately throws guilt on them because they know they haven't been paying attention. I'm an ex-teacher. I use guilt to great effect. And you can too. Or you can do whatever you want. The idea is to have fun and be yourself and engage with people. You have to be eager because you will not fool them. You will not fool them with your boredom. You can't fake enthusiasm. You won't fool them on the phone. That's why this is one of the most potent tools you have. Because you can't, it's not like an email. You can steal a bit of copy here, steal a bit of copy there. You could have someone write your email. If you're on the phone, you can't fool anybody. Your voice will give away immense information if you learn how to listen. So be genuinely interested in this. Smile. What do you mean smile? They can't see me, Jim. Yes, they can. Through your voice. The human face is extraordinarily expressive. I forgot how many, somebody counted how many visual cues you can have in a face. It was like 300 different expressions. The smile is your most important thing, and when you're smiling on the phone, you can hear it in your voice. I was talking to someone the other day, and they could just, "Are you smiling?" I said, "Yes, I am." Because you can hear it. And remember the person's name and listen to what they're saying. Don't just go into your pitch and your script or whatever you're doing. Listen to them. Take notes. You're going to see a tip on that in a minute. Take notes of what they're doing. Talk about what the person is interested in. If he digresses, we had an insurance guy today come in and he started talking about his Mexican vacation. "This is great. Hola," I said. As he talked, you know, good. But it wasn't just me. You know, it was my wife who takes care of the insurance in our company, and she's sitting down opposite him. And I was just standing there because I just want to know about insurance. But I listened. I was good, and I contributed by saying hola. And I got, 45 minutes later, I find out this is probably a great insurance guy. But he was comfortable then. See, we got comfortable with each other in person. It's the same thing on the phone. Make the target feel important. Test your different script. Test different things. Test different things. And smile. Play back what they said to you. Did you mean by that? What did you mean by that? Take notes when you're doing these things. And play it back to them. Did you mean that? Or what did you mean by that? Can you explain further? I don't understand. Shh. Some people in my office don't ever want to admit that they don't know. Shh. I say, you know what? I want to tell people I don't know. You know why? Because there is no better way to get people talking to you than saying, I don't understand. Can you help me? I'm serious. Try that. There is no better way to get somebody talking to say, can you explain that? I just don't understand it. And it could be as simple as stuff that you do understand. You know, one of the great lawyer tricks, right? I don't understand. Can you clarify? And they already know what the answer is. And you may know the answer. But if you get the person engaged in telling you what he believes is the answer, you now have a basis of comparison. And you can compare his answer to your answer, and suddenly you've got a conversation going. I'm going to write a course on sensitivity management one day. So I'm at a major, this is a major company, and the president's wife just passed away. I hear about this. I drive over. I get in there. It was an unbelievable moment. I've been working for this client for 18 years at the time, so we had a great relationship. We embrace. He's sobbing in my arms, sobbing. We sit down, and I said, have you written the obituary yet? He says, no. He says, would you like me to help you? He said, yes. And you can see, he's clearly emotionally sad and everything. So I take out my pad, we start talking. I said, tell me about her. He weeps a little, and he starts telling me about it. The phone rings. Now, this guy picks up the phone. Not just at this time, all the time. If you know when to get him, he will answer his phone. He told the receptionist, and this is a major multi-million-dollar company. Which, by the way, one of the secrets of telemarketing and why I like cold calls, because you can get to these people. They answer the phone. Top people answer the phone. He picks up the phone, and it's some guy, you can hear, yeah, no. That's how he's talking, right? And I can feel the guy on the phone pitching my client. He's pitching him. He has no idea his wife just died. None. He's pitching him. He goes, no, I'm sorry. Can you call back later? Okay? Can you just call back later? I'm not interested in uniforms. Click. The guy was pitching him uniforms. And he spent over a minute and a half on the phone with this guy, giving him ample clues that something was wrong. No. The tone of his voice. He didn't have to know his wife died. He could have heard, no. He could have heard it and said, you know what? I can tell something's going on. I'm going to call you back. And made an impression. Instead, he'll never get in. Never. That's it. You get one shot, and he'll never get in. That was an unbelievable moment that taught me more about telemarketing and sensitivity to the situation. And ladies and gentlemen, you never know what you're calling into. Never. Time of day, there could be things going on. You never know what you're calling into. Where I called once, the phone died. I get a call from this rep. He said, they just cut off our cellular service because they killed us. They whacked all the people, the whole sales force, 30 of them. And they cut their phones off immediately. That's why I couldn't get through to him, and he got to another phone. You never know the situations you're calling into. That's why you have to be spontaneous. That's why you have to have an objective for your phone call. You don't call, hey, how you doing? How was that vacation? That's not the type of call I'm talking about. The type of call I'm talking about is a business call. A call that allows you to do business. Of course, you can talk personal things, but you do business. Be aware of your surroundings and be aware of their surroundings. Are you calling into their office? Are they in their home office? Are they working from home? I called a client once, and he picks up his cell phone. He's at a Starbucks, and you hear all the noise in the background. People think Starbucks is like a hermetically sealed environment. It's not. And so you got to be careful and be aware of that, so you have to talk a little louder so he can hear you even though he has his headphones on. I can tell, this is the case where I can tell you're working on something. Be sensitive to that. And make sure you have a goal for the call. It's not to close the deal, or it is to close the deal. It's the step to closing the deal. And by the way, what I'm telling you about phones and their ability, the same is true of emails, and we have a course on that. Because email communication is very important, but it's very different. It's not the same. There's no richness of tone in an email unless you use exclamation points. Good morning, Ray, exclamation point. Good morning, Ray, period, ... Very different. Punctuation is the secret of written communication for emphasis. And everybody knows what capital letters mean, right? It means either you don't know, whatever. Here's Bob Stone. Bob Stone was the father of direct marketing. He wrote a book, a couple of books, but here's his 5-step process for doing phone calls. And I'd like to review them with you because Bob Stone was a smart guy. He was Stone and Adler. He started an agency, a very famous agency in Chicago. But he had a lot of good advice for us. Pre-call planning. What does that mean? Don't just pick up the phone and start dialing for dollars. Pre-call. Sometimes it takes me an hour before I will make the call. Well, Jim, time is a non-renewable resource. You've said that in your other courses, right? Of course it is. But the hour you spend in pre-planning that, even if you get hung up on, you learn so much about the target, about the company. And you're not caught short, right? So pre-plan. Plan that call. And approach and position. What does that mean? Bob Stone says approach and position. Get to the point. Hi, my name's Jim Nowakowski. I'm calling you today because of such and such, right? Immediately identify yourself. I did this on a follow-up call. I do many follow-up calls. The one recently, I still remember it because it just happened. I called the guy up after sending him 2 letters. It's an integrated campaign. And I said, hi, I'm Jim Nowakowski. Did you get my, I'm following up on the letters I wrote you. Do you have those letters? And he goes, I don't think I do. I go, would you like me to send them to you again? And he laughed. He says, what are you selling? I said, I'm not selling anything. I'm trying to offer some ideas to you and your company. We had a great conversation. Took 2 minutes. He said, no, I'm not interested. Hung up. Thank you, right? Was that worth it? Of course it was. Because then I wrote his father a letter and said, your son's too busy, but here's the ideas. Even if I don't get in, who cares, right? You're trying to, if you sincerely believe in what you're selling, and I believe there's not anybody in this audience who doesn't believe in the quality of the product or service that you're selling. If you do not believe in the quality and service you're selling, please raise your hand and get out right now. I'm kidding. Don't leave. But you do. And if you do believe it's worth something, you don't let anything like a hang-up interfere with the quality of what you're selling, do you? I don't. Your objective has to get the person talking to you. And that's exactly what happens in your win-to-loss ratio, right? You want to know what my win-to-loss ratio is, right? Oh, I'm not going to tell you. But I go through a lot of no's and a lot of hang-ups and a lot of I'm not interested. But I'm telling you right now, the one I get after those is worth it. It's just worth it. Those usually turn into pieces of business for us. Because we're selling intangible things, aren't you? How many designers out there? Yes. You're selling creative design, intangible things. And words fail so miserably at explaining intangible things, don't they? But when you can talk through these things and start showing things in a go-to-meetings afterwards, go-to-meetings, by the way, is a visual phone call, is it not? These are great tools to help you. And sometimes you bark up the wrong tree. There's a saying, right? Barking up the wrong tree. Sometimes you do. That's okay, because you learn not to go to that tree, and you learn something from barking, don't you? I do. Find the decision maker, but don't neglect the gatekeeper. If you've seen the movie Wall Street, you know what I'm talking about, right? With Charlie Sheen, who's trying to get to Gordon Gekko, and he's going through the gatekeeper, his assistant. And he calls her all the time, and he finally gets his shot. That's so true, it's unbelievable. The gatekeeper is your key, and that happens to me all the time. And I bond with the administrative assistant sometimes to get to the target. Gather data, question, prepare solutions. Because, ladies and gentlemen, sometimes, go figure, one call ain't going to cut it. And it's not. It's usually never one call. Never. It's multiple calls. Multiple calls. Just be patient in here. So, some helpful tips. Go for it. Listen to your customers. Your customers tell you invaluable information all the time. They're telling you what they like, what they don't like, what they need, what their problems are, their solutions. You want to know one of the most effective questions that you can ask anybody? What is the biggest challenge you face? That instantly puts them into a thinking mode as they try to figure out which is the problem. Some people use what keeps you up at night, but that's pretty much cliche nowadays, right? But sometimes, if you say, what is your biggest challenge? I interviewed a guy for an hour and a half where he was trying to bring me into one of these Vistage type organizations. It wasn't Vistage, great organization. But you meet with a group of like executives and you talk over problems, da 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 da. So we had an hour and a half meeting. And they always think when I'm coming to these meetings that they'll be pitching me, but I end up pitching them. And it's a great role reversal, and it's a great conversation. And the guy doesn't have an hour and a half to waste, and neither do I, but I always engage. This was a great conversation. It wasn't over the phone. It was in person. Okay? But you can still do it over the phone. We ended up talking about the meaning of life. Isn't that interesting? Because that's what's meaningful for me. Because if I find out about you, I can tell if I can do business. So he finally said, what gives you meaning? What gives you meaning? I said, work. Is there anything else? We laughed. But of course, there's a lot of things that give you meaning, but you're listening to people. If you wanted to, I could recite this guy worked at Allen Bradley. He then went on to a bigger call. I can tell you, because I was listening to him talk to me. He told me everything I wanted to know about him and why he thinks I should be in this organization. This happens all the time, and on the phone. So and let me ask you this, designers and architects in the audience, when's the last time you sold a design over the phone, right? You don't do it, or do you? Because you send it, you talk about it, a PDF file, an idea, you present in your offices, he goes home, and you use the phone to engage, right? The phone is a powerful tool. And you can't have a sale without it. I'm serious. Emails are not, you may sign the contract with an email. We just sent a proposal over to a company today, as a matter of fact, for a huge, huge project. But that involved a visit to the office, 3 phone calls, maybe 6 emails before that finally happened. Because you want to understand how powerful the phone is as a tactic in an integrated marketing campaign. Hold everything. Have you ever been placed on hold? I have, and I know it's a horrible experience. You're placed on hold and they play some stupid music. Then the guy's voice comes back on and says, sorry, we're experiencing an extraordinary volume of calls. You will be answered in the order, right, that you came in. Do you believe that? Does anyone in this room believe that you're going to be answered in the order you came? Well, Jim, there's technology that does that. Well, of course there is. But do you really believe that? And do you want to wait 10 minutes to talk to somebody? Well, if you're driving in the car, maybe. I don't have 10 minutes. Never keep people on hold long. Never. Even if you got to get on the phone and say, you know what? I got alligator, is one of my tactics. I got alligators biting on my ankles. Can I call you right back? And I know when you do that to a client, sometimes they hate that, but sometimes you have to do that. Just whatever you do, you don't want to keep people on hold. And never forget to leave a contact number, preferably twice with any message. If you're leaving voicemail and you forget to leave a contact number, which, by the way, I'm sure I see people smiling. It's happened to you, hasn't it? Where people call you and they forget to leave your contact number. It just happened to me the other day. He says, you know, please call me back, but he forgot to leave his extension or his phone number. He thought I intuitively knew it. You don't. You're busy people. And use the voicemail to your advantage. It doesn't have to be, hi, this is Jim Nowakowski. Because sometimes if you're leaving 2, 3 messages trying to get through on the dreaded cold call, have some fun with it. This is Jim Nowakowski, and I promise never, ever to call you if you just call me back. That doesn't work, by the way. But if you get tired and bored and you know it's not going to happen anyway, have some fun with it. Come on. People form opinions about you when they meet you, just like you're seeing me for the first time, perhaps, the majority of you. Within 60 seconds, you're forming opinions about people when you first see them. Well, Jim, you can't judge a book by its cover. Sure you can. But basically what you're doing is you're formulating the opinion on the phone based on your voice within the first few seconds. What you say, how you say it, when you say it, is very important to get through to people because they're forming an opinion, especially on a cold call. I call a client sometimes, he goes, yeah. That's how he talks sometimes. Because he's busy. I can tell he's doing 8 things. Sometimes within my own office, I call people and go, Ray, and they can see it's me on the phone. I go, hey, Ray, how you doing? Sorry. It's about the relationship, ladies and gentlemen. Forming relationships. And guess what? In business, you form relationships, or you break relationships in order to form relationships, or your relationships is broken because someone else is trying to relate to your clients. And it's about relationships. The phone is a tactic to use to create and hold relationships. Because it's easier to talk than write, isn't it? Writing is difficult. It's discipline. You got to write, you got to rewrite. But the phone, you can just say stuff. And then people might say, well, didn't you say that? Well, if it's in writing, you can't deny it. But if you just said it, say, I don't know, did I say that? Well, if I said that, then it's good. That's why surveys work, continually asking people questions. Okay, 87% of the opinions people form about us are based on the tone of our voice. Hey, what do you mean? His voice is, sometimes it curls you, right? You got people who curl the voice. That's because they haven't recorded themselves. They haven't listened to themselves. So 13% of the opinion of you is based on actual words you use. Ubiquitous. That's a big word. I never use that word. Why? I used it earlier in this CEU on purpose. But I don't talk like that. Do you talk like that? Maybe you do. The words you use on a phone, in person, will reflect on your personality. And people can hear your personality and your mannerisms. Don't forget that. Follow up all the time. Well, Jim, I don't have anything to call my customers about. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? For example, architects, designers, codes always change, don't they? There's always a new code coming on. So you call your clients up to alert them about that. I just want you to know I designed this into the HVAC system and there's been a change in the code. The energy, the energy department is coming up with requirements for fans. I wanted you to know about that and I wanted you to know you're clear. You see what I'm saying? And I'm just making this stuff up. I'm not an engineer. There's always something to talk about. Always. And don't make calls just to make calls, because Jim said, well, I took this seminar and Jim said make calls. No. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying when you do make a call, have a purpose and an objective and a goal and make it count, because it's a tactic. It's a tactic. Issues in the neighborhood, upcoming events. I'm going to be at so-and-so. Are you going to be there? Very important. And when you sort it out, you have to realize not everybody you talk to are the same. All leads are not created equal. And the people are different. And the phone gives you that ability to customize your phone call. Hey, what's up? You say that to a client. You say that on a cold call. Hey, what's up? Click. It doesn't work. Or maybe it does. I don't know. Test it. Every individual has different requirements, and the phone call helps you understand what those requirements are. I always take notes on a phone call, on a cold call. I did an interview yesterday on a referral lead that someone gave us, right? She started out by saying, well, why don't you tell me a little bit, because I was so-and-so recommended you, why don't you tell me a little bit about your company, what you guys do, and then I'll tell you what you're looking for. I said, great. I said, because a guy like me loves talking about their company and what we do. But I only spent 4 minutes doing it because I wanted to hear what she says. So I said, now it's your turn. Talk to me. What's your issues? He said something about choosing magazines, but I know there's lots of flux and all print is done. And we had a great dialogue. And suddenly I said, if you don't mind, I'm going to start taking notes. That's the clicking you will hear in the background. I told her this. I tell everybody this. I can type 75 words a minute. And so my Surface Pro, I pull it up, I pull out a Word document, and I start typing out her responses. Not only am I typing out her responses, I'm typing the questions to ask her about her responses. And she's hearing the clicking because I want them to hear the clicking. I want them to hear that clicking. Why? So they know I'm taking notes and not doing something else. Because I'm really listening to her. And after she had 15 minutes of telling me what she did, we talked for another half hour. And I was asking her questions about, when you said this, what did you mean? What about that? I got everything I needed to know to do a proposal in 45 minutes. 45 minutes. That's how long that call was. I never talked to her before. We exchanged 2 emails to set that meeting up. 2 emails. In 45 minutes, I am telling you right now, we're going to get that business. And when we do, I'll send all of you, if you send me your email, a notice that I did get this. This is a major company. Major company with a severe problem that we can help solve. So you respond to people, and I didn't know what was going in. I knew the script in my head. Basically, I'm going to tell her a little bit about us, but I want to know what she wanted to know because I got it from my referral. The referral I got from my associate, the guy I used to work with in the past, he gave me really like a rundown of what they talked about at lunch. And then he introduced me to her via email. And he said, this is the guy that can help you. But guess what? Her problem was not her problem. And how often does that happen to you? In my business, it always happens. But you can't tell that. If I were to base my response on what my referral friend told me, I would have been on the phone 10 minutes. And I would not have uncovered the real problem, which I'm not going to tell you what it is. You can write me later and maybe I'll tell you. I talk a lot. So you have to treat these people individually. There's no such thing as a proven formula. So ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to end it now. And here's a picture of this wonderful iPhone that we have in our pocket, or Android, or whatever. I think the Samsungs still are on fire. I don't know. Don't laugh. Use it or lose it. Use the phone, ladies and gentlemen. Don't lose this great thing, this great ability to communicate, which you complain. If you have children, you're complaining. They don't talk. They text. That's because they haven't been taught to talk. The human voice is powerful. It's enriching. It gives you clues onto the mood of the person. Don't let that go away, especially for business. So now I'd like to entertain some questions. If you have any questions, I know you have questions. This may not be the appropriate time, but you may have questions. And if you raise, okay, yes. So the question was, What is my win-loss ratio? I told you I'm not going to tell you. But it's about 20 to 1. It's huge. Why? Because I'm after a different type of client. Yours may be lower. Yours may be lower. Yes. The question is, how often should you call your clients? That's a difficult question because, as I just said, everybody's an individual. You don't want to be obnoxious. There's that very thin line between being obnoxious and being helpful. You should return all your calls. That goes without question. Return all your calls. I have a friend, he's a publisher. In his voicemail, he says, I will return your call by the end of the day. And he does. Sometimes that's difficult to do if you got 30 messages, but he does do it. He does do it. Okay. Other people, I had another client who used to return all those calls, and then he stopped. And I said, why did you stop? It's because they were all telemarketers, and I just don't have the time anymore. Those are judgment calls. How often do you call the client? I call the client when I need to call the client. Usually, if I don't want to be intrusive, I'll send them an email with an attachment. But if it's something urgent to say, I'm going to pick up the phone immediately. One of the best times to call a client is when the problem arises. I know when problems arise, I know people who run the other way. We run to the problem and we face the client head on with the problem because I want to know the problem ahead of time. And I call the client and I say, here's the problem. So I know you have other questions, but time is of the essence. So I'll tell you what, here's our contact information. I really want to thank you for the hour you gave me today. It's been enormously enlightening for me in listening to some of your concerns, and also the honor of presenting to you on why I use this phone, okay, and why you should use the phone. There's our phone number. Call us anytime for some consulting. There's my email. If you got a question, please email me. Email me at any time. You know, tell me what you want to talk about. I'll call you back. All right, and then follow me on Twitter at @InnerlineJim. I tweet a lot. I'm tweeting right now. You can't tell because I use Hootsuite. I'm kidding, but I'm not. But I use Twitter as a channel. It's not the phone. It's like a verbal phone. And LinkedIn too. You should use all these social channels, but the phone is very important. And Twitter is just a little verbal 140-character phone. So thank you very much. I really appreciate your attention and have a great day. And call me soon, please. Bye.